Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. Yes, that's on one of the new American Reversion mugs that'll be available here pretty soon. Howdy, how are you all today? It's been a while, hasn't it? I was on vacation, took some time off. Been thinking about this channel. Have put up some stuff on the over on the Patreon side. But I've been kind of wondering, okay, you know, things keep happening. What do I want to talk about the first time I come back? And corruption. Let's talk about corruption. Let's talk about this country and its government being corrupt to the core, shall we? I know it shocks so many of you that there is corruption in our government. So why am I talking about this now? Well, because it's time to get back at this, and a couple of things happened today. I saw a couple of videos on other channels that made me want to. Actually, one kind of didn't make me want to do it, but the second one did. The first one kind of surprised me, and it says, "Well, no, you know, it's no wonder we've got problems." So I'm going to toss that up. By the way, nice to see y'all again. Nice to be back. Been doing stuff over on the Integrative Preparedness channel, but been waiting for the politics to get right. And welcome to anybody who's new. Welcome here. So I was driving back home from someplace this morning, and I was checking. I guess I got a message. Anyway, something made me check the YouTube, and something popped up on the channel, and I don't remember what the name of the channel is. It's The Seal. His name's Chad. He's got long hair. He's a distance runner. I haven't watched very many of his videos, but the title of this caught me, and it was, he said something, I won't get it exactly right. Maybe some of you have seen it, because I think his channel is getting pretty big. It says something about how do I rectify my military service with my disdain for the government or something like that. I don't know. And I said, well, okay. I went through that back in the 70s. This will be interesting, you know, because I know a lot of guys. There are so many guys who, having served in the military, you know, when we serve in different capacities, I was in law enforcement, others were in the military, and we adopt this idea that we are there to serve the greater good. We are there to serve our country. We are there to serve our fellow man, our citizens, protect them against the hordes and all this kind of stuff. And we pretty much separate ourselves or keep ourselves separated from politics, and in many cases pride ourselves on staying separate from politics. That's a big mistake, by the way. Just serving as a little automaton of the state is wrong. And I came to learn. Maybe I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Anyway, so I found this was interesting because I see a lot of guys, once they get out of the service, they go, whoa, gee, now I'm seeing things in a different light. Maybe the way I saw things back then wasn't right. And in many cases, it causes them big problems. I have friends of mine who, when they came out and they started seeing things for what they really were, really have some problems because of it. And problems with some of the things they did in the furtherance of that, what they discovered to be a corrupt government. Okay, so anyway, I watched his, and he went through, he gave his reasons for it, and I think, like I said, I haven't watched many of his stuff, and I'll be real honest, I disagree with him on a lot of things, you know, but that's okay. I don't have to agree with everybody, and they don't have to agree with me. We come at things from different, you know, experiences. But his point was that when he got out, he came, or out of the Navy, he finally woke up, he says, I think in 2020. We know what was going on in 2020, right? Several things were going on in 2020. And he said that caused him to have such disdain and disgust for the central government, it woke him and changed his mind. Good for him. Good for him for understanding that. I understand the dissonance that he obviously went through on that. So I'm glad that he woke up. But you know, I wasn't necessarily going to make a video responding to that. It was just, I saw, okay, this is representative of so many people whose eyes were closed while we served in whatever way we served, until we got out and started looking at it with a discriminating, clear eye. Then I saw something pop up. Michael Francis interviewed Carrie Lake. And I've already put that interview over on the Patreon channel. The link's down below if you'd like to see it. Or yeah, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. But for those of you who are with us on Patreon, it's over on Patreon. Now, Francis, and you've heard me say before, there are a lot of lessons that people can learn from the mob. A lot of lessons. And I like Francis. He and I were involved at the same time. Now, he was up and coming through the family in New York, eventually becoming a capo. I was on the other side. I was in law enforcement in Kansas City. And during the time that he was really rising up, I was attached to one of the federal organized crime task forces investigating things, and I'm not going to get into details there. But some of you have heard me say that one of the main reasons that I left law enforcement was that the deeper you get into that monster of the government, and probably I say this, if I'd stayed in uniform, you know, if you stay on the front lines, you never see the dirt that makes you disgusted. You're out there serving, you think you're doing a good job, you are helping people, that's good. Hopefully you're helping people, hopefully you're not an asshat just screwing with people, because there are some of those. But you until you go deep underneath, you don't see the dirt as much, very much. You might say, you see the superficial stuff. You don't go deep. Well, I went deep and I saw how corrupt it was. And some of you have heard me say that when I left, I realized that I had more respect for the people that they were trying to put in jail, meaning the mob guys, than I did for the government. And those vaunted organizations that everybody, for all of their lives until the last few years, thought were just the pinnacle. The FBI, the DOJ, the DEA, all this kind of stuff. And ever since the 80s, when I was expressed my opinion about what I felt about those corrupt organizations, well, people just thought I was horrible. And they probably figured that I was some kind of, disgruntled guy that couldn't make it, and so I was angry and all that. It wasn't so at all. And now people are discovering that, right? Guess what? The FBI is corrupt. Does that mean everybody in there? So I shouldn't even have to make this caveat. But for the idiots, I will make this caveat. Does that mean that every single person in there is corrupt? No, it doesn't. There's some people who are in there trying to do a good job. And you know what happens to them? They get screwed over. They don't get promoted. They get bad assignments. You saw what happened to some of those whistleblowers up there, right? Yeah. You try to stand up for what's right while you're inside that monster, the load is coming down on you. I'm not even going to say what happened to me. It doesn't matter. In the long term, I won. Simple as that. I won because I have a great life now. Ah, yes. Let me take a sip from my American Reversion mug. So Francis, and I love the fact that he interviewed Carrie Lake, because Francis knows corruption. Okay, now, but he was part of the mob, which is nowhere near as corrupt as the United States government. But they got him on all sorts of things, right? But he understands corruption. And the funny thing is, he came out of that, as many people that I know in the organized crime circles. You know who they had the most disdain for? crooked cops, crooked law enforcement. There was nothing lower in their world than a crooked cop, which is why I got along with them. They knew I wasn't crooked. But they used them. Because there were so many who were open to corruption. That's how the mob ran things. That's how they controlled things. I think the title of Francis's video today, where he was interviewing Kari Lake, was Biden Crime Family. Yeah, typical. I mean, this thing is so obvious. It goes so deep. It goes so wide. This is bigger than, and I was involved in a very big investigation, one that they made a movie about. This is much bigger than that. The reason that nothing's getting done about it is the depth of the corruption and the stupidity of most of the American people. So when Michael's interviewing Kari Lake, and it's a great interview, go watch it, he really is a man, like I, who has seen the inside of the monster and understands the depth of the corruption. Now, a lot of people out there, some of you all may have been that deep, I don't know. Most people know it's corrupt. They'll say, it's all corrupt, I want nothing to do with it. That is the worst thing that you can do. Okay? So many people want nothing to do with politics because it's so corrupt. The problem is those people don't realize that by not becoming involved in some way with addressing that corruption, and there are many ways to do it, they are just ensuring that the corruption is going to get worse and it will eventually hit them. There is no way to stay away from the corruption. If you think there is, you're wrong. If a person, I shouldn't say you, if someone thinks there is, they're wrong. And they get their head in the sand. There is no way not to be affected by corruption at this level. Okay. So Michael Francis understands it from the inside. I understand it from the inside. It is so much worse than the average person could ever understand. That whether we're going to be able to fix it, we're not going to fix it. Every organization is corrupt. I don't care if it's the federal government or it's your Boy Scout troop. Well, my Boy Scout troop isn't corrupt. It's just because you haven't identified corruption. Does anybody get anything out of your Boy Scout troop because of who they are? Okay. Does anybody get a little special attention because of who they are? Okay. Yeah. Okay. See, that is the beginning of corruption. Does anybody have undue influence over what happens in your Boy Scout troop, your Girl Scout troop, your Girl Scout cookie sales, your PTA at school, your HOA in your neighborhood, your city council, your committees at work? There is no organization that is not corrupt. You know why? Because it's full of people. So what do? You have to learn to protect yourself against that corruption. How do you do that? You increase your ability to have influence over the system. How do you do that? The mob did it by buying off crooked judges and cops and representatives and things like that. They put in Pendergast, the city boss of Kansas City, is the one who put Harry Truman in the White House. You know that, right? Or didn't you? Okay. from a failed haberdasher in Jackson County, Missouri, a guy who went bankrupt running a hat shop, to become president of the United States because the boss in Kansas City put him in that position. JFK was put in by the mob. Now, he was a good one. But because he didn't go along with the plan and didn't do what he was supposed to do, they took him out. So that's how they control it. Now, we have a lot of people who have been complaining for a long time about corruption. It's corrupt, it's corrupt. And they go they'll go the spectrum from wanting to divorce themselves completely from the system, which, you can do that. It means that you're simply going to be affected by the system. Eventually, you will be affected by the system, whether you admit it or not, whether you know it or not, and not having any influence over it. Or we have those that wear all the T-shirts, right? Cold dead hands and, behind every blade of grass and all this kind of stuff, right? And who think that simply saying those repeating those quotes, I did my part, or showing up at some kind of, get-together, demonstration, whatever. Do you know what effect that has? Zip! What Rush used to say, zero, nada, whatever, no effect. It has no effect. It has absolutely no effect. What does have an effect? You have to be able to control people in the corrupt system. You see, they're already corrupt. Does that mean you need to corrupt them? Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. But there are ways to have influence without corrupting the person. Every politician wants more than anything else in the world to be reelected. You could give them their choice to be, to be able to fly, to be able to be smart, which most of them aren't, to whatever, or be reelected. They're always going to choose be reelected. Okay, because everything that comes with it, because of the corruption in the system. They're guaranteed to be a millionaire. They go in, with a credit score not being able to buy a used Hyundai, and they'll come out, within 6 years, they're a millionaire somehow, magically, right? These people want to be reelected more than anything else. They are corrupt. Now, you don't have to be corrupt in order to control them. What you do have to be is able to have an influence on whether they're going to be reelected. Now, does that mean you go vote? Well, yeah, you go vote. Of course you go vote. If you don't vote, you're not doing the very basic of being, a citizen of our republic. If you don't vote, shut your mouth. You have no right or reason to complain. You're not part of the process. You're just a visitor. Okay? But no, it's more than that. It's getting together. It's forming a group. In preparedness, everybody's all about forming mags, right? Form a mag, form a group. Yeah? Have you formed a political group? Have you gotten your family and friends together and say, hey, let's get together and call ourselves something, and let's get somebody to send periodic emails to this person, this person, this person, and this person. Let's go to all of the meetings that are around here. And already I see people's eyes glazing over. That's too much work. That's too much work. No wonder we're in such a mess. That's too much work. Too much work to get together with my family and friends and say, let's see if we can have an effect on this next election. By having meetings, by doing things that we're going to get more people involved, by letting that person who's running for office know that we are a group and we have influence over them. And that as a group, we're going to either work for them or against them. And then keep a real close eye on what those people are doing. And when they do something right, boy, you pump it up and you publicize it and you yell about it. And when they do something wrong, boy, you spread that everywhere. This is way too much work for most people. The most work that most people want to do, to be honest, is maybe listen to part of this video and go, yeah, that's right, or this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I do know what I'm talking about because I know the depth of the corruption, and most people out there don't, to be honest. They think they do, like so many things in life. They have no idea. As a result, they have no idea how to play it. They have no idea what to do about it, and things can be done about it, and you can actually do things about it while staying above board. So it's no surprise to you or anybody else. Well, yeah, it's a surprise to many who don't pay attention. It's no surprise to you that this country, the government of this country, is totally corrupt. As a result of its corruption, it is not legitimate. What did George say? Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. You believe in God? Really? Do you try to obey God? Do you believe in tyrants? Do you obey tyrants? Do you obey those who are trying to destroy you, your family, and your country? Or not? Something to think about. But then think about the many different ways you could address the problem. When you live under corruption, what does your obedience to that corruption say? Good to see you. Good to be back. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.